right. Oh, great. So, as I mentioned, I am Elena Ashley, the founder and CEO of Ashley Consulting and Training, and our brand for training, ashleytrainingonline.com. And we are excited to be hosting Mr. Ash Seddock today for this Lunch and Learn webinar. Hi, Ash. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you so much for having me. Very exciting.
No problem. Now, before we dive in, I just want to give a special shout out to the Women's Business Center and California Capital for co-sponsoring our webinar today. We are a business partner and client of WBC, and proud to be offering this kind of training for their clients. So just to give you a wee bit more information about ACT, and that's our acronym, by the way, because acronyms are so great these days, and how our training brand came to be was like this. So ACT is a data management consulting firm, and we help companies with all things data, whether it's analytics or governance or privacy or security, all those different things around data. And the training brand was basically spin off because of the demand from our clients to offer training in these areas as well. So now our platform has evolved into a very robust platform offering over 400 courses. And we offer these courses in live instructor-led formats as well as interactive self-study formats. So there's a lot of opportunity to upskill on our platform. And of course, we provide several certification training classes that offer continuing education credits in some form or another. And of course, we also offer these great small business lunch and learn webinars. We have several coming up. We're going to talk about those a little bit later. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to introduce Ash Seddock, our guest speaker today. Again, Ash, thank you for joining us. Ash Seddock is a sales and marketing coach and author. And he's going to be talking to us today about creating the powerful elevator pitch. So I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at his biography that is on our website when you registered, but he is the creator of the Own It, Win It, Crush It Profit Success Formula. And so he's an author and he wrote this book, and he teaches people about this accelerator for business, and he is like the sales guy, the sales trainer and educator as well. So he is a speaker, and you can see in his profile, if you read through it, he's been featured on CBS News and Fox and NBC and ABC. So he's been all over the place, and he enjoys helping businesses grow through sales and marketing. So Ash, without further ado, thank you for joining us on the platform today. Please introduce yourself and do a much better way of introducing yourself so people can get to know you.
Thank you so much, Elena. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. And I think a lot of my experience has been by working with just amazing sales and marketing people mostly in high tech, but my initial fantastic experience was working for a management consulting company in San Francisco. And that's where I saw people who were essentially selling services, because I think for a lot of us who are selling services, it's invisible. And the question is, how do you make it concrete? And it was very interesting to see how in the management consulting industry, we talk about what we deliver for clients. And then when you go to high tech, and I saw the whole trend of selling hardware and software in boxes, as many of us remember. And then now everybody is selling it as a service. So now it's a major shift that's happening around those industries. And at Cisco, when I was there for 9 years, I worked with the top 200 account managers who were essentially bringing in 80% of a $40 billion business. And the question was, how can you actually get them to talk in a way that will help them sell even more on accounts that were very highly profitable? So I'm excited to share with the team here some of the ideas that I've gathered along the way, and specifically how do we actually make it engaging. So when we're ready, we'll share the screen, and I can walk you through some of the ideas I have. And then we'll definitely open it up for people to ask questions, maybe share their own elevator pitches, and we can give them feedback as well.
Awesome. So a couple of things. One is I would love to just give everybody the opportunity to introduce themselves before we jump in, and just tell us a little bit about why they decided to join the webinar today, because I think everybody has their own motivation for coming to these webinars, and so we'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to unmute everybody, and hopefully we don't get a whole bunch of feedback. I'm sure there will be some. And then once we have gone through our introductions, what I'm going to do is go off camera and let go of the share so that you can have the share, and then we'll jump right in. Okay? All right, so let's get this started here. Barbara, love for you to introduce yourself to everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. I'm Barbara Clark, and I actually live in Alabama.
Nice.
In Anniston, Alabama, and my daughter who lives in Atlanta. She has a branding company, and so I've been trying to help her get. She just recently started, so I'm helping her make cold phone calls.
Nice.
So when I saw this training, I said, I think I need to sit in on it so I can do a better job at it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I will talk about another webinar that Ash is going to be doing that will also be very helpful for you as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Thank you for joining us, Barbara.
Okay.
All right, and next up we have Rhonda. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Rhonda?
My name is Rhonda Melendez.
We can barely hear you. Turn up your mic volume a bit.
How about now?
It's a little better. I still got a strain to hear, but I'll be quiet.
Sorry, I'll try to speak really loud. My name is Rhonda Melendez, and I have a psychology firm. I also decided to start a coffee roastery, and I am not a salesperson typically. Because obviously I'm going to have to move into formal sales for a coffee. So
Awesome.
with psychology,
Awesome.
it's been more word of mouth. So it's easier just to be a little more passive about it. But with coffee, that's not necessarily the case. So I need to grow. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm sure you're going to find it to be very helpful. And of course, all of Ash's webinars are always very helpful. He's one of my sales and marketing pros, so we like to have him on the platform whenever we can, helping you guys out. So awesome. Thank you so much. And Rhonda and Barbara, what I'd like you guys to do when you get a chance is put your email addresses in the chat box for me so that everybody can contact you later if they want to have a discussion with you. Next on our list is Joanne, I believe her name is. Joanne Mansfield, are you out there? Looks like her phone is still on mute, and I have unmuted her on my side. So let's go over to Michael for a moment, and maybe Joanne will join us in a minute. So Michael, are you out there?
I am, Elena. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. Okay, quick background. I'm a software engineer, but more importantly, I'm an entrepreneur. I work with nonprofits. Back in 2015, we started a startup with a goal of developing and delivering enterprise software for compensation management. And I'm I'm a man of few words, so I really need my elevator pitch to be perfect to tell people what exactly we are giving them and why they need it. So that's where I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you're definitely in the right place for that, and I second that one. I definitely need this myself as well. You know, I wear a lot of hats, and the elevator pitch is one of the most important hats I need to make sure that I have on my head correctly. So absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Michael.
Thank you.
Again, make sure you put your email in the chat box for us as well.
Done.
And it looks like, Joanne, you might be unmuted by now. Are you ready to say hello? Not yet? Okay. We also have somebody on the line that is on a telephone, and I'm not sure what your name is. Your phone number ends in 1917. If you want to introduce yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. My name is Lucier. This is my second time doing Ashley training. I had so much fun the first time. I decided to come back again.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I've been told that having a solid elevator pitch is extremely important for your business. So I saw the opportunity and came to join to see if I could learn something useful. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, no problem. And I'm guaranteeing you're going to learn something useful. I know Ash, so I can guarantee that.
Awesome.
One thing I do want to mention too, and I'm not sure if you guys got an email from the admin last night, but there should have been a handout for your webinar today. If you didn't, then while Ash gets started, I'm going to put it in the chat box for everybody so you'll have the document and you can open it up because he will refer to it. So if you didn't get it, no worries. We'll put it out in just a few minutes. All right, so looks like I'm having a look in the chat box. I see everybody's got their emails in there. That's awesome. I still didn't get any introduction from Josanne, so I'm going to let her put her introduction in the chat box as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this thing started. I know Ash has probably a good 30 or 40 minutes worth of chatting to do, so we better give him the time to get it done. So Ash, take it away. I'm going to go off camera, and I'm also unsharing right now, so you can take over the share as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Elena.
No problem. Did you find the green share box down there? There you go.
Yeah, I think we should be good.
We are. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So again, I think I'm excited because a lot of people on the call, on the webinar here are very genuinely interested in what we're going to be talking about. And I think the main thing that I'm going to share with you is, number one, is a thought process and a philosophy. And I will explain what I mean by that. But our main intention is, how do we, when we get a chance to actually talk about what we do it in a way that's going to be engaging and, most importantly, memorable. And what you'll basically see me really trying to preach in the beginning is that a lot of the time, whenever we are in a networking event, sometimes we're very anxious to actually talk about what it is that we do. And what I want us to do is restrain ourselves. Don't jump the gun. Essentially, try to really get interested in the other person first and get to learn about who they are and what they do, and be a bit more reserved. And I think this is the same thing applies also to what's happening in social media now, because I think 90% of our business development, getting to know others, is happening online. And we're still trying to find our way around. How do you actually do that online? But let's just imagine that we are in a networking event. We're trying to talk to somebody, and we are anxious to tell them about what we do, because we, in the back of our mind, we're hoping at the very end of this networking event, I'm going to walk away with 5 business leads that I can follow up on. And the challenge here is that anxiousness in our approach essentially will trip us up. And that's really where, when we really hold off and become grounded in that moment and get to really express interest in this other person, we get to learn about what they are doing, what the world is like, and we get them talking to us, and we really start going through that courtship process where there's no marriage that happens in that very first meeting. You have to go through the stages of getting to know the person in front of you. And once you actually get to know them and establish interest and rapport, then we are essentially really buying the privilege and the honor of being able to tell them what it is that we do. Because otherwise, it's almost like in-person spam. And I think, one of the TED Talks that I'll share with you from a speaker, that's really how she looks at it. And what's going on with people is typically, whether they are on the market for something or not, again, we look at, how do we ourselves buy? We want to become aware of something, that maybe it's an issue that we have, maybe it's the solution that's out there in the marketplace. And then we come back and we're trying to figure out, are we interested in this or not? Then we say, let's put this on our agenda. Let's figure out when we can have something like this. So we're really establishing that desire of us taking action at some point, and then at some point we do take action, right? So that's really what's happening in the mind of everyone else, even ourselves, when we are actually thinking about a service that we want or a product that we want. We're not necessarily, we don't necessarily have the checkbook right then and there and we are ready to engage. We need to realize that even ourselves, we take steps towards taking that action. And once we understand that, then we start to step back and we try to think about that thought process that that person in front of me is going through. And if I'm able to create an awareness for them, create the interest and the desire, then the action will actually take care of itself. And we'll see when we start talking about the philosophy aspect of what I'm talking about, how that action piece can actually become pretty much automated in a lot of ways. So the best elevator pitch, and I'm actually here really quoting an expert in this area. Her name is Sam Horn, that I learned so much from. And what Sam Horn basically tells you, in order to succeed, you have to intrigue. In order to succeed, you have to intrigue. And what that tells us, it basically tells us that in order for us to deliver an elevator pitch that is going to be memorable, we're going to have to figure a way that is really intriguing. And that is why I believe the power of using storytelling in the process of delivering an elevator pitch, it is a fantastic process to use because it engages the audience in a situation that we're basically trying to have them visualize with us. And we use the story to explain a hero's pain. For example, if I am a psychologist and I work with clients to help them go through certain transformations, I essentially then start telling the person I'm talking to the story of how some people go through X, Y, and Z situations and pains. And then I basically tell them, I step into that process. I step into this situation so I can help them achieve the outcomes that they are looking for. And I get really excited when I help them achieve these outcomes. So the third part of that story is the celebration of those outcomes. And again, as you can hear me talking, and when you deliver something like this, it becomes a whole lot more engaging. And that's why when you take a look at the example in the handout, you'll see them just providing just one simple process for us to tell that story. And that story essentially starts with us using two fundamental phrases. The first phrase is, do you know how? And this phrase really gives me the chance to give them a description of the hero, the customer that I typically help. What typical challenges and pain points does that customer usually have? And then how do I step in to actually make a difference? So I will basically now just give you an example of how I will use this formula to deliver an elevator pitch. And again, I'm assuming that by this point, I've actually achieved the awareness, the interest. I've become much more interested in them. I heard them talk to me about their own business, about their own life, and I have essentially established rapport. And now they have basically asked me, so Ash, what do you do? And I basically start to tell them a story. Do you know how some leaders sometimes struggle to get their message across to their audiences in organizations, whether they are talking to their own employees, their direct reports, or even their leadership? That's really what I step in. I help them craft very clear, value-based messages that they can then take and deliver, whether they're going to deliver these person one-on-one or in groups. I work with them in crafting these messages, and I help them develop the muscle for delivering it with impact and influence. That's really what I do. And then I could actually do a business development follow-up question, and I basically can say something like, I wonder if people in your world or circle could benefit from something like that. And this third question does not have to happen in immediate sequence, right? I could wait. I can wait for the reaction. I can give them an opportunity to say, well, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that people in such a situation could actually do this or benefit from this. And then the conversation with that story in mind becomes much more useful and much more engaging. And it doesn't come across as, I've got this widget, I'm trying to sell it, do you want to buy some, right? It's actually a whole lot more from the standpoint of, here is the situation that I typically step in, and when I do step in, here's what I actually do, and here are the outcomes that happen as a result of me stepping into the equation. And that's the value that I bring to the table. And then maybe down the line, then I basically start to get them thinking in what I call multidimensional thinking, because a lot of people start thinking, oh, I don't want that myself. And running my own business for years, I figured out I have to actually help people sometimes to get them thinking in a multidimensional way. And by this, I mean, do you or someone you know would benefit from this? So you start to get them thinking, because maybe there is somebody in their network that would be a perfect fit, and maybe they are not the perfect fit. And that's absolutely fine, because what we want to do is we actually want to create a symbiotic relationship where eventually you will find something that you can actually do to help them just by way of giving, so that they also learn from your own behavior that in order for us to really succeed, we have to give. And sometimes a checkbook does not have to be on the other end of that. It is really more about creating that synergy and that symbiotic relationship where you can make some introductions, you can give and help people succeed, and they in turn will look for opportunities to do the same thing for you. So that is really the fundamental formula that I would recommend. Another formula that some other people could use is they can actually start with the word imagine. Imagine that situation. Imagine this customer who is trying to look for an amazing place to enjoy a cup of coffee, maybe have a brief business conversation, or maybe just an opportunity to chill out away from the Starbucks of the world that have become so mundane and so noisy and basically so fast paced that you don't really feel that you're enjoying being at Starbucks anymore. And most people look for coffee shops that are off the beaten road. They look for an opportunity to find this coffee shop that no one knows about, where they can get some serenity. And that's really the place that we have created for our customers. So you can basically see how I'm doing. What I do is I create that desire, and then I come back and I basically talk about how what I have created is essentially delivering that, right? So it's almost like I'm creating a bridge. First, I have to create the vision for what that desire is, and then I create a bridge into what it is that I do, or into the, like in this case, a coffee destination that I have created for my clients. So far, so good. And we can definitely take questions along the way if you want to just to stop me and step in or ask questions, and Elena can also stop me as well. So here's the fundamental then thought process for all of us, is that when we're talking to others, so we're really envisioning in our own mind that there is this hero, there is this customer, there is this client. And the reason why I'm using the word hero, it's because essentially in our own mind, it's almost like we're building a movie, and we have this main character, and this main character is our customer. And we're really trying to help them succeed. Because when they are successful and they reach the top of the mountain and they're very successful and they are raising their arms up in the air, then we can point to them and say, we've helped create that success. We can actually create a similar success for you. I mean, that's essentially what you're trying to accomplish. And part of that process is to end up getting a testimonial that you can put on your website, that you can put in your marketing collateral, that you can have on your LinkedIn profile. Because these testimonials over time, as we will see later on in my conversation here with you, really creates the opportunity for us not to have to sell anymore. And that is the best place to be, is how can you create conditions in your business where you're not selling anymore? That would be the most important thing for us to happen. So on this chart, we're basically saying when we have that hero and we're trying to help them, we're trying to help them in an exponential way. We're trying to take them from where they are, and if we can achieve 10 times better performance for them, 10 times better results for them, then that's a much better conversation. If we're talking about 1 time better results for them, or 2 times, it's not that exciting. So I'm basically encouraging every one of us, as we will see again a bit later, how you can actually think about their pain points, and you can think of solutions that will actually be incredibly better than where we are today. Okay. So what are some of the underlying principles then that I am actually keeping in the back of my own mind as I interact with clients, as I talk to people every day? And as Elena said, eventually we're going to have a much longer training with the title Speak to Serve, where every word we are actually uttering is really coming from a place of service, which takes this whole idea of we have to sell completely out of our psyche, and we start actually enjoying every conversation we have. And of course, drive our business forward, because there is no doubt that all of us need that to happen. So this is something that I actually formulated recently, and I'm calling it the tension index. And by the tension index, essentially we're looking at the pain level that our customers have. But then on the flip side of that, what is actually the joy level that we can create? So the difference between the joy and the pain is that tension. Because if they are in a particular business situation, they are trying to get marketing to happen, or sales to happen, or growth to happen, or employee satisfaction to happen, or employee engagement to happen. In all of these situations, there is a huge divide between where they are and where they need to be. And that divide is what's causing that tension. If you're able to have conversations with people where you're genuinely interested to figure out how much that tension is, and try to get them to give you details, and as much details as they can, because then you'll have a whole lot more information that you can use to figure out maybe there is a piece of service that you can sell them that is small enough to open up the windows for you, right? Because a lot of the time people try to then listen to a lot of this information and say, oh my God, I can go in and sell a $100,000 opportunity or a $200,000 opportunity. But again, I'm going to come back to this whole idea of restraining, because if you try to go after everything, it may trip you up. So the best thing is to think about, if I haven't done business with them before, if I were them, what would I do? Would they buy too much from me from the get-go? They probably won't. So what I need to do is I need to create an opportunity for them to create something that feels it's small enough for them to actually take the risk, for them to give me the opportunity. And that's what I start thinking about. What's tension 1, tension 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so that I can then start working with them on solving parts of that pain one step at a time. And in the process, in the process of so doing, I actually create more credibility and more trust and more reliance on the fact that we've given this person some business. They have proven that they can do so well. Let's give them more. Let's give them more, because we can see the vision for what will happen when we actually fix the tension level that's at 6, and we can achieve an amazing vision of that future, and life will be much better for all of us. So that's really what this is about. And then it really educates how you, again, think about how fast or how slow you want to go. And then another principle that's in the back of our mind, we're basically trying to take that tension, we're trying to use that tension to inspire solutions that we can think for them, and then we are also trying to use these solutions to then create excitement for us. And that's what I call the TIE model, in passion, because you will then, once you have figured out these 3 pieces, oh my God, you are so excited to just talk to them, because you have very genuinely figured out what the tension is, you understood what the pain points are, you understood what the solutions are and how they fit in solving the issues for them, and you're so excited about what that future looks like when we actually get those things done. So then all of a sudden, you're that person that's helping them articulate a vision for the future, and you're helping them get there. And they can see that it's actually now become an emotional connection with them. You're not the guy or the gal that's selling them XYZ product. You're this person that's going to help them get to that beautiful future where life is much better. We have business growth. We have a much better marketing results for us. Our leadership team is in a much better position. Whatever that excitement is going to be in whatever form it is, now you're helping them actually talk about it and start having another kind of tension, which is, oh my God, I cannot wait to get there. When you create tension in their bodies of, I cannot wait to get there, they will find the budget, they will get the decision made, because now it's not a business issue as much as it is an emotional issue, where they really want to get to that position where customer service is a joy, whereas now it's painful, right? Or marketing is achieving results, whereas now everybody's looking at the metrics and saying, oh my God, the metrics suck, we don't know what we're doing, and the business is not growing, and everybody is concerned. Everybody's got this other tension in their bodies. Are we going to lose our jobs? So everything at the very end of the day is very emotionally driven, and once you figure out what those emotions are, you're able to then think about, if I were in their shoes, what would I actually want this person talking to me telling me? So the other piece of philosophy, and I'm going to run through this very quickly, and I think Elena mentioned it. We did actually do a session before on this whole idea of the own it, win it, crush it success blueprint. And it's a blueprint, again, that I came up with and I published in a book with Jack Canfield. The main point behind it is that once you actually have a philosophy that says, I'm just going to be the best in the marketplace, I'm going to do the best I can for my clients, eventually what will happen is my customers will succeed and they will actually sing my praises and they will give me more business and more business and more business. So a key message for us behind this is, in order for that elevator pitch to actually really succeed, I have to back it up with the fact that I have an amazing business. I have an amazing philosophy about how I do what I do. I take ownership of my business. I do a great job for my clients. And in so doing, then they actually, again, sing my praises. They give me references, and I won't have to keep going to every single networking event, having a very hard time getting customers. So the philosophy that I'm trying to say here is, every time you get a client, you basically say to yourself, this is an opportunity for me to create amazing success, not just for this customer, but for 15 other customers that I will get as a result of doing an amazing, amazing, amazing job for that customer. So that's why in the next slides, I'm not covering the first two masteries, but I'm very quickly going to share with you what Mastery 3 is about. When you crush this whole experience for the customer, you get that customer wow factor, you get the repeat business, you also get new business. That's what this is about. So first, you make sure that that customer eventually will use your product. So everything you do for them, from the moment you actually have that elevator pitch all the way to delivering your service, you want to make sure that at the very end of the day, they're going to adopt it, they're going to use it, and they're going to enjoy it, and they're going to get the outcomes that they are looking for. The reason why, not just because you care about them, you care about the 15 others behind them. That's what's key. And that's what I've seen Deloitte does, Cisco does. All these big companies, they know this customer is only the window to 1,000 others. So let's do the best we can do for that customer. So that's essentially what happens here. You then end up getting repeat business from that same customer. Beautiful. You don't have to struggle. And I had a similar experience. This Monday, I did a webinar for one client. I made sure I did my homework. I made sure I did a great job. And then they came back the following day and said, hey, instead of giving you one statement of work, we're just going to give you one big statement of work so we can give you a lot more work. It is definitely by virtue of, if you've done your homework and you actually produce results for people, the results are highly likely that you are actually going to achieve success, and you won't have to work hard for getting business. And I'm being honest, I actually had to apply that this week in my own business, right? So the last piece here, which I basically call it sort of the autopilot magic, is when referenceability is strong in your business, in the sense that when people go to networking events and somebody talks to them and says, I am looking for a marketing consultant, and they mention your name, you don't even have to be there. Can you imagine that? You don't even have to be there. That's what needs to happen in your business. You need to get to the point of saying, okay, I am learning about elevator pitches. I want to get past that stage where someone else will actually do this on my behalf. And when that happens, life is just magical, because the phone will start ringing, the email, you're going to start getting leads via email, people are going to be making introductions, and that's really where you want to be. Is in that referenceability stage, because that's really where a lot of the references are available, the testimonials are speaking on your behalf, and you're getting a lot of results based on that. And one customer win leads to another win. And that is beautiful when it happens. So I am pretty much done with my piece, because I really want to open it up to us, giving you a chance to practice if you want to do that with us. And I also have an offer here for you to reach out to me and get a 30-minute elevator pitch coaching session. And all I'm asking is for you to write a recommendation on LinkedIn. If you have a good experience, that would be awesome for you to share. But Elena, I can pause here and we can come back and summarize these pieces of information once we give people an opportunity to see if they want to practice with us.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so just to summarize and get back to the elevator pitch part of this, there's three pieces. So I have your document open, and I'm just taking a look at the three pieces. So the first piece of it is to get to the place where you can very succinctly say, my clients suffer from what? So in other words, hi, my name is Elena. I help people with, or do I say first, for example, what is your business pain? Like, how do you open the conversation with them to just say, because an elevator pitch is typically something that you kind of open an introduction with. But sometimes, to your point, you have to back it up and just talk to that person a little bit and then wait a little bit before you start with your elevator pitch. So start with step number 1.
Exactly. So step number 1 is really not figuring out if they are a similar target customer, and they ask me the question, what do you do? And I will basically then say, do you know that when people like yourself who are in such and such a situation are suffering from this and this and that, that's where I step in. And that's the phrase that I use as a bridge. That's where I step in. So it's very natural. It's very smooth. It doesn't feel like I'm selling. I'm basically telling them that's really where I step in. They don't know how I step in. They don't know how I engage yet, right? So they just understand that that is really where I step in. That's the value I provide. And these are the outcomes I help them achieve. And I basically get excited because now I'm telling them about an actual experience with the client. Very much like what I was telling about this Cisco VP that I was coaching, the past few weeks. I stepped in because he was struggling. His emails, he was struggling over email. He was struggling in one-on-one meetings. And I came in and I basically helped them with how they're languaging across the organization. Right. And then if the person that I'm talking to is looking for a similar solution, and then in this case, it's like, wow, you know what, that's interesting. Can we talk some more? So what I've done here is I really created intrigue. And that's why, Sam Horn, as I mentioned in the beginning, says, if you want to succeed, you have to intrigue. So the story creates that intrigue. Because then they're like, oh my God, it's almost like saying Elena is, she's going places. She's got these clients and she's working with them and she's doing those things. Wow, we should find out more. So now I'm building that awareness. I'm creating the interest and the desire. I'm really making it memorable and emotional versus talking about, I do X, Y, and Z.
Right. Got it. So essentially, you're introducing yourself and your company, for example, and then kind of passing it back to them to ask you the question, like to introduce themselves and either then talk about themselves and what they do, or pass it back to you, which oftentimes happens, which gives you the opportunity to say, well, hey, my company ACT actually helps people. Businesses protect people's data because these days there's a lot of data breaches going on and people's information is being stolen and fraud is up and look at what happened with Equifax and blah, blah, blah. So I help companies make sure they have policies in place, they have governance, and then they have the technical way to protect data. So that is me saying, what the emotional piece of what I do to help create that intrigue. Oh, you do that? Oh, that we need that, right? So that's what that doing.
And what I will do with what you just said, I will basically sequence it differently, which is exactly by starting by, how companies are suffering from breaches, and it's really causing a lot of public embarrassment for them. And of course, the data of their customers, which they feel so passionately about, that's really where we step in.
Right, gotcha.
So then you hook me with the emotion
first.
Exactly.
And then describe the solution that you help provide. Okay.
Exactly. It's all about
that's step 2, that piece. So the first step is starting with, like you said, the emotional struggle, and then the second piece is the here's where we can step in, and this is how.
Exactly.
And then you add the third piece in, which is.
Yeah, you can basically then say, is this something that you experienced in your company, or are you familiar with companies where this may actually resonate with them a whole lot more, given the challenges of the business that they have? And then we start really having that conversation. But once I've achieved rapport, then it's easy from that point on.
Right.
And I came across not as someone who's trying to pitch something anymore. I actually came across as someone who's telling me a story, and I remember it. I remember.
Yeah, it's interesting because we call it an elevator pitch, but really what it is just grabbing their attention long enough to introduce yourself and leave some type of an emotional trigger for them to want
Exactly.
to reach out and contact you more.
Yes, exactly. You just want them to remember you, because they're going to meet so many people in that event. If they can remember you, a couple more people, you've achieved something.
Yes.
And that's why I think the fact that what we experience on LinkedIn, what we experience in some meetings, people are trying to get to the close, and most of us don't go that way. Even we don't. So if we do, it's like, come on, what are you thinking? They are not going to even do that themselves.
Right.
So how can you expect that they would?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Michael, I want to throw it out there to you. Do you want to practice really quickly with your elevator pitch based on these two processes?
I wish, but no. My mind is filled more with questions, but from personal, experience.
Okay.
I think the strategy and the approach is definitely right, and thankfully it's also what I have been following to a greater extent, I should say. Not jumping in, but listening, because like Ash mentioned, identifying the hero is critical. Otherwise, I'm wasting my pitch on somebody, which unfortunately with my product domain, I've done that over and over again. Finding the right person, who's got that pain point. And Ash, I don't know if you have any advice for me on this. One of the challenges I run into is, trying to break people's pattern from, sticking and doing things the same old way and showing them there's a better way to do it, which, you talked about. And
Yes.
so when I talk to people about problem, they look at me like I'm crazy, because in their mind, it's not a problem. And of course, we're talking about elevator pitch, right? Not a 40-minute session where I can show them graphs, show how much time they're spending and how much, so that's where I often fail to connect. And remember, like I told you at the start of the session, I'm a man of few words, which makes it more complicated. I'm not used to talking their heads off.
Yeah. I have a tip for you, and you may be using it already, but one of the things I learned at Oracle is to try to think of their income statement. Think of something that's very strategic metric for them. And you can basically say something like, when they looked at their cost of goods sold, they were really surprised to find out that X, Y, and Z was a factor. Right? So now what I'm really doing here is I'm connecting the financial impact of whatever it is that they may not even see as a problem, but when it happens 1,000 times over and it ends up affecting the income statement, they will say, oh my God, I didn't really think about it that way. Because a lot of people are very silo oriented. They basically think about their role. They don't see the strategic view. So if you're able to find the metrics that your solution affects on the income statement, and you're able to back into the behaviors, they may actually pay attention. And especially if you also figure out if they are reporting to X, Y, and Z person, can we think about the argument from their boss's view or their boss's view? What do they care about? And then you basically tell them, imagine if we were able to do the X, Y, and Z, how much would that mean to your director or your VP? Because otherwise it continues to accumulate.
Right. Yeah, one of our recent or one of my recent approaches is trying to project, or pitching and saying, hey, we understand, or I understand when you're trying to select a vendor, we as a vendor, we want to make you look good with providing reliable results. In the enterprise space, when people are selecting a vendor, they are often betting their reputation on the line. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was
and that's a good point.
Ash, I appreciate that, because that's true. If you can't, like in the case of data privacy, for example, we can hit the emotional impact pretty quickly to reel them in, because you can even ask a question very simply like, so were you affected by the Equifax breach, or by the Facebook breach, or by the, so it's easy to ask a question to open up and grab that emotional side of it to then, continue that pitch. But in the case of Michael, it's a very different kind of scenario. And sometimes making those connections can be tricky. So that was a very good tip. I appreciate that. Now, Rhonda or Josanne, do you guys have any questions for Ash, or any clarifying points you'd like to make, or maybe you want to practice your pitch a little bit? We've got the line open, so you're certainly welcome to if you'd like.
I would like to, can you hear me? I know it was harder earlier.
So Josanne, I can still barely hear you. If you can turn up your mic a little bit or get a little closer to it, would be great. I know part of it is just my problem because I'm half deaf, so it makes it harder for me. If Ash can hear you, that's the important part. So
Yeah.
Are
Yes.
you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. First of all, I would like to thank you because honestly, when I'm thinking of making an elevator pitch, the anxiety for me elevates. And I don't like the thought of cornering someone to sell a service. And that was what frightened me about the whole idea. However, what this has pointed out to me is that often I use the techniques you speak about in coaching and walking clients through other issues. I was able to connect the importance of establishing a relationship, establishing trust, making sure that they know that I care about them. This is not, of course, I want my bottom line to be improved, but I really want them to excel and flourish and really achieve what they want to achieve. And so, number one, that helped me. And then number two, when I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to this webinar, but you use the coffee
house analogy. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was very, very helpful to me too, because it made me realize that I didn't get into coffee for the bean, although I love coffee very, very much. I have a deep affinity for coffee, but that's not why I became involved in coffee. It was about the people. And so you helped me link my purpose beyond just roasting beans. So thank you very much. It really
Absolutely, and that's a big part, and I'm glad you said that, because that's a big part of elevator pitches. That is, if you can share that why you do what you do, is a fantastic thing to happen as well, because then people see that you're not just a fly-by consultant or coach. You're really committed to this. You feel it's your purpose, in a sense, that you feel very committed, very interested in helping clients, and in this case, let's say, enjoy coffee and enjoy the serenity of the place. So yeah, no, that's a fantastic idea, is to also think about, and here's why I do what I do, as part of that conversation will be a fantastic thing to add.
That also makes that emotional connection with the person, which from, from any perspective, I know women are typically ones that connect on a more emotional level automatically, but I think everybody operates a certain level of emotion in terms of whether or not they even like you enough to want to ever talk with you again, right? So you still have to have something there, even if you're not in a business that appeals to somebody's, interests or their personal needs or wants. You might be just connecting with them so that later, when they, like to your point, when they hear this person say, I really need X, you go in your mind, oh, I like that person I met, I'm going to refer them right now. And that happens all the time, that connection. And so that's the whole thing, is taking out of the elevator pitch, we need to pitch ourselves to sell ourselves. No, we need to just make that connection. We need to help them understand what we do in an easy way, and then just open it up for, hey, if you know of anybody who ever needs my service, I would love for you to, connect us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so now Rhonda, how about yourself? I think you're on mute again. Oh, there you go. You're unmuted now. So do you want to share or ask any questions of Ash?
Actually, that was just me. I think you.
Oh, that was you.
It was me.
Sorry. So Josanne is the one that I haven't heard from yet, then maybe.
Yes.
Oh, so I heard you much better this time then, Rhonda. Thank you. Oh my goodness. So Josanne, are you out there? I still am not hearing anything.
I think she's got a, there's something in the chat window as well.
Yeah, I'm just having a read through it. I realize that's from her. So we provide a service that bridges the gap. At this point, the goal is to get them to ask how. For example, tell a quick story, project stalled, what we did. Can you foresee a similar situation?
Yeah.
How would this affect your project? What if you could engage a CSI at this point to assist with the solution process? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in situations like this, if she can tell the story and then they then ask her, how did you do that? Because she's basically saying, you want to get them to ask how. And I think it's part of, when you're telling a story, you have the opportunity to give details or withhold details, right? So so what we're basically saying here is that if what you're trying to do is get them to ask you on the how, hold off on the how. Because then you give them an opportunity for yourself to pause, and then they highly likely they will realize you haven't actually shared with them how do you actually do that. Then the next question would be, how do you do it? And then that's how you can step in and give them some details on our approach or our process or the steps that we take. And that's why when we think about it as a conversation, it becomes a whole lot more comfortable to realize that once we got them engaged, then it's not necessarily just an elevator pitch. We just finished the elevator ride and now we're walking to the coffee shop, so we have more time together.
Good point, good point. I like it. All right, awesome. Well, so we're almost out of time. I wanted to just take a couple of minutes. I'm hoping you guys can see Ash's PowerPoint screen on the screen right now. Ash, is that what you're seeing? A picture of yourself?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to just take a few minutes to obviously say thank you to you for, for providing this webinar for us. I mean, it obviously is awesome information, and it went way beyond just designing the pitch. It went to the psychology of how you create the pitch to be successful, and I really appreciate that. You also had an offer that you're giving everybody, a 30-minute consultation with you, which is fantastic. And I have put in the chat your email address so that people will have the opportunity to connect with you. And it's Ash@Connect with Ash. How simple is that? So we try to keep things, pretty easy when we set these things up. So that's awesome. I also wanted to mention just a couple of things. One is Ash's next presentation, and I believe I've got the date right here. Ash, you can confirm it. We talked about Tuesday, I believe, June 25th. And that is going to be Speak to Serve, which is really a conversation around how you sell without even selling, right? That's the principle behind it. And so I wanted you to just, give us the quick 3 sentences about this particular one so that people know what's coming up.
Absolutely. So really what we'll be talking about is essentially how people who sell services, who sell the invisible, can actually sell it without having to sell it. And we do this by basically following the Speak to Serve process. We'll go through the different stages that we use, that we think about as we talk with clients, because most of the time we talk with clients not just to sell the opportunity, but it's actually to deliver the service and to do the follow-up and ensure success. So really what we're talking about is how do you actually speak throughout the process, so that at the very end we have a very satisfied client who's going to give us that reference, as we were talking, who's actually going to come back for more business, who's actually going to actually refer others to do business with us. Perfect. So that's really where most of what's on the market today is focusing on that very front end conversation. Now we are in the services business. All of us are. We're talking to clients end to end. How do we actually make sure that whenever we're talking to clients, we're talking to them from that point of view of, we're here to serve you. We're here to create success for you, so that you can become the person that creates success for us.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I'm excited about that one too. And of course, everybody on the call is invited to join us for that as well. I also wanted to just go over a few more that we have coming up. In case anybody out there is interested in crowdfunding, we have a Lunch and Learn happening on June 6th, which is with Jim Worth. And he actually did a Kickstarter campaign for a project that he wanted to see if he could fund It is all about these little things that you keep in your pocket. People think of them as good luck charms, for example. And he wanted to have molds made for the dies that would cut these coins that he wanted to build. And so he did a Kickstarter campaign, which he originally wanted to do like $4,000 campaign. He ended up putting together $44,000. So it kicked off the whole business instead of just that little bit that he was trying to gain. So so he's going to talk about that Kickstarter campaign and how that worked. We also have some life skills training coming up. We have Diane Lang, who is a therapist, an educator, and author. She's going to talk to us on June 7th about managing stress. We also have Gary McKinsey that will be doing his NLP conversation, neuro-linguistic programming, which is the art of resonating with your audience. So it's using the 5 senses to really resonate and connect with your audience. So that one's going to be on June 12th. And then, of course, on June 13th, we have Irma Vargas, who's a certified StrengthsFinder coach, and she's going to just walk us through StrengthsFinder, how it works. We'll be able to get a coupon code to take the StrengthsFinder assessment, and then she'll do a follow-up webinar about a week later for people to do a general readout of that StrengthsFinder as well. So a lot of exciting things coming up on the Ashley Consulting, Ashley Training Online. I hope everybody has enjoyed today's webinar. I'd like to invite you to obviously follow us on all of your favorite channels. We're on all of them. I think we're even on some more that aren't even listed here anymore. So please make sure you follow us so you get kept up to date with our upcoming webinars. And of course, obviously, if you need any training beyond a free lunch and learn, AshleyTrainingOnline.com is here for you, and we have some of the best trainers in the industry on many different subjects. So feel free to check us out a little bit. All right, everybody. I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Elena.
Thank you, Ash.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.